How are we? This is Chat UTD. A little bit of a spotlight on the recruitment at Man United, and I'm going to start with, a semi-realistic look at what I think we need to do regarding the squad in the summer. And using a format that has been used quite recently, or something similar to it, I'm going to put each player in one of three categories: start, squad player, or sell. So we'll start there in order of position. So Lamens, start; Bayindir, sell; Luke Shaw, squad player; Harry Maguire, squad player; Lissandro Martinez when fit, start; De Ligt when fit, start; Yoro and Heaven, squad players; Dalot, squad player; Casemiro's going; Ugarte, sell; Mainoo, squad player; Mount, sell; Bruno, start; Dorgu and Cunha to sort of fight it out for that position on the left, and same on the right with Ahmad and Mbumo, and then I guess with no alternative at the moment, you'd have to have Xerxes starting, Seshko starting, should I say, Xerxes, sell, and I think that's it, which I think shows how thin the squad is actually. Apart from youth players, I think that might be about it. So by my reckoning, that would mean that we would need a backup goalkeeper, a starting left back, a starting right back, three centre midfield players, and two of them to be starting midfield players, probably a backup striker. I'd forego a left winger because I think that we need to find a position for Cunha in the team. It's not his best position, but we're struggling to get him game. We're not struggling to get him game time, but we would struggle to get him game time if we weren't playing him on that left-hand side. And Dorgu, I would say, has looked at his best on that left-hand side on the wing. So what the club do is entirely different. Apparently, left wing is quite high up on their list of priorities. So I'm not sure. I must say regarding Xerxes, he would be on the list to sell with Bayindir, Ugarte and Mount, and last year I forgot about him. He would be sold as well. Xerxes is probably a little bit unlucky because I think there's a player there, but it's just lack of opportunity. I just don't know where he would fit in. He's not an out-and-out striker. He can do a job there, but he's not really an alternative to Seshko. And in behind the striker, there's just quite a few different options. And I think the only time he's realistically going to come on and make a difference is if we just had to go absolute all-out, Alamo, go for it, abandon ship, take off the defenders, take off midfielders and throw on attacking players. But realistically, how often are we going to need to do that? And realistically, how often is Michael Carrick going to do that? Not too often. I said at the start, this is semi-realistic. What I mean by that is, if it was a magic wand job, this would look very different to what I just said then. I wouldn't keep Dalot, I wouldn't keep Luke Shaw, but that would mean we'd need four fullbacks, and that's not going to happen. And in real life, we won't buy one fullback, I don't think, or we certainly won't buy two, because the club have an attitude of let's make do, and Luke Shaw as a let's make do option is all right, and Dalot as a let's make do option is all right. I forgot Mazraoui, by the way. Mazraoui would be a squad player. It seems that unless it's a desperate necessity, the club's not proactive and doesn't have foresight. It's very reactive. And as I say, if it was a magic wand job, it would look quite different to what I just said before. But we haven't got a magic wand. So I think at a bare minimum, what we're going to need is, in terms of realistically, I think what we're going to need is, I think we do need a better backup goalkeeper, and I think we need three centre midfield players. Are we going to get that? I've said that not only are the board and the club and the owners the reason why we're not getting a top class new manager, but also they would scupper any chances a top class new manager would have of being successful, because a new manager would want and need a lot of players. Any manager would want and need a lot of players, because we need two players for every position, as I've mentioned before, and we're way short of that. But a particular manager like a Nagelsmann, or as we saw with Amorim, if you need bespoke types of players to play a certain way, or play a certain style of pressing, or play a certain system or whatever, the club is not set up to produce that. It's too slow, it's too ponderous. let's do one deal at a time. It's this absurd notion of let's cover one area of the pitch per each summer. Last year the attack, this year the midfield. It's just that, it's absurd. But having said that, I said recently, one of the probably the only people at the club that I would say is well thought of and probably quite sought after, if he was ever to become available on the football board, probably is Christian Vavell. And my understanding is that he's got something to do with recruitment. But I'd really like some clarity on who does what, because what does that mean? Does that mean that he is the guy that goes out and identifies talent? Does that mean that he has a group of scouts that does the identification and then he's got contacts to make it happen? Does he go and negotiate with clubs and agents and players? Or is he just an ideas guy? Does Jason Wilcox, is he the one that goes and sort of dots the I's and crosses the T's and actually speaks to other clubs? Who does what? Because we're led to believe last year Jason Wilcox identified Liam Delap as his primary choice as a striker. I mean, I struggle to say that with a straight face in a summer where Gyökeres, Osimhen, Seshko, Ollie Watkins, and probably a number of others would have been available, and we could have potentially gone for. And obviously, we got Seshko in the end. Who identifies Liam Delap as the number one target? We have to be asking questions of the person who's put him at the top of the list. So is that Jason Wilcox? I'd like some accountability. I'd like some clarification and accountability as to who does what, because it's really easy to be accountable and put your hand in the air and say, yeah, that was me, that was my responsibility, when things are going well, when a department of a club is praised and everyone wants to take responsibility then. But no one wants to be accountable when questions are being asked. And I do think questions need to be asked. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's great. And if we just look at the recruitment since Ineos came in, the first summer was Xerxes, Mazraoui, De Ligt and Ugarte. Xerxes is going to go after 2 years and hasn't made much of an impact. De Ligt, for me, is a really a United type player. Aggressive, strong, good attitude, does exactly what it says on the tin type of centre-back. The closest thing to Vidic that we've had since Vidic, in my opinion. But he's missed most of this season through injury. So by the end of this season, he'll have missed at least a quarter of his United career through injury. And that was my concern when he came in. We were led to believe that his knees were the issue. It's been a back problem that's kept him out for I think since November. So whilst he has all the attributes to be a really good signing, you can't say it's been exclusively positive because that injury is a concern. Mazraoui, who I forgot as I was talking then, I actually really like Mazraoui. Very dependable, good utility player, can play either side, left back, right back, can play centre back. Good attitude again, strong character, always does a good job for the team. I think he's been a pretty decent signing, pretty solid. Then fast forward to last summer, you've got obviously Cunha and Mbeumo. Cunha, love Cunha, but where does he fit into the team? We've sacked the manager and now he doesn't fit into the team. And Mbeumo looked really good to start with. His form has fallen off the face of a cliff since November. He's been really poor since November. Now there's been periods during that poor run of form where he's still scored goals and he's still made goals and he's still contributed. But nonetheless, his form, his performances, his levels have dropped. And again, he's being played out of position. So has it been an exclusively positive signing? No, probably not. Seshko, jury's out for me on Seshko, scoring goals, which is great. Good luck to him. Hope he continues to do so, but I'm not convinced. And that's one that we probably need to give a little bit more time to. Lemens, at the moment, so far so good. Younger players, Dorgu, Heaven, and obviously even younger than that, Chido Obi, Kone, I think, was brought in, Diego Leon. Yeah, all that looks pretty decent. But those main players, we've got 8 of them. It's a mixed bag. I forgot to mention Ugarte in any detail there. Ugarte's come in and in 2 years has made very little impression. I must say, don't forget, we sold Scott McTominay in order to get Ugarte. It wasn't a direct swap because they're not the same player, but we needed money, which in itself is a pitiful situation for a club like Man United. We had to sell before we could buy. We essentially sold Scott McTominay so we could get Ugarte. Now, maybe it was time for Scott McTominay, but we're not looking like we got on the right end of that deal, are we, at the moment? We were told when Ineos came in that it was we were looking to be an elite club, elite people all over the club, and a club that bought elite players, and best in class was something that was mentioned quite a bit. My question would be, best in what class? What class are we talking about when we say best in class? Because I believe the best in class means you go out and you get the best players, the top players in the world. That's best in class. What we do is we want players under the 26 26 years old or younger, who are not going to cost upwards of £70 million and are not going to move to City, Arsenal, Liverpool in preference of us. That's not best in class. We can still beat the likes of Newcastle to a signature, as we showed last year, and Tottenham and Villa, probably. Chelsea, not too sure. But unfortunately now, players will go to City, Arsenal, Liverpool ahead of United. As soon as City's name goes into the pot, it's over. So Anderson, for example, if it's between City and United, he'll go to City. Now, in the past, with Sanchez, with Maguire, United have ended up going, right, we'll pay you more money. With Ronaldo, we don't want City getting you, come in, what do you want, kind of thing. That's not necessarily the right thing to do. But it's a little segue to my next point. This new form of ownership, if you like, is using the mistakes made in the past as an excuse to not pay the going rate for players now. So what this new form of ownership will say is, we don't want to be held to ransom. We're not going to pay daft wages. We're not going to pay silly money for transfer fees. And I think they're happy to use that in conversations around the likes of Tonali, for example, or Anderson. Now, if we are paying whatever Nottingham Forest are asking for Anderson, City would pay that, Liverpool would pay that, Arsenal would pay that, and they'd pay his wages. That's not daft money. That's not silly money. Daft money, silly money is paying £65 million for a 29-year-old whose legs are going from Real Madrid and giving him nearly £400,000 a week, because nobody else in the world of football would have done that. That's a silly mistake to make. Paying the going rate, which is a lot of money for a really top player, is not daft money or silly money. That's paying the going rate. We don't want to do that. So then don't talk about best in class, because that's not what you're aiming for. That's not what you're shooting for. So I suppose ultimately when I asked that question, who's accountable, the book stops right at the top, doesn't it? Because if Christian Vavell worked in a structure where the owners had a football first mentality and more disposable income, and they were happy to plough money into the club, the guy would probably look like a genius, because he is good. And I don't think identification of talent is a problem at United. Going back to Ranić and Solskjaer when they were around, between the pair of them, they recommended Haaland when he was, I think Solskjaer recommended Haaland when he was worth under £10 million. Caicedo when he was worth under £10 million. Enzo Fernandez when he was worth under £10 million. Between Solskjaer and Ranić, they recommended those three players. We probably could have got all three for a sum total of around 22 million quid. A few years down the line, they're now worth £100 million each. But those insights of the likes of Ranić and Solskjaer were ignored. And I still think now identification of talent is pretty decent. Vavell seems pretty good at that. He does seem to have a good reputation at that, especially with younger talent. But who's accountable for whether these deals get done or not? Who's accountable for how many deals we can do? Who's face to face with the agent? Who's face to face with the player? Who's face to face with the other club? I'd like to know, because if it's Jason Wilcox, I can see where we're falling down. There's a lot to do, and my theory is we need 2 players for every position. If I had my magic wand out, said the vicar to the tart, we'd be talking very differently to how I spoke at the start. But as I say, at the very least, we need 3 centre midfield players, because we've got Ugarte and Casemiro leaving. If Ugarte stays, it's just to make up the numbers, and that's a dangerous tactic to have. So you've got Mainoo remaining. If you want 2 players in behind Bruno Fernandes, the only one that we will have left is Kobbie Mainoo. I would say you need 2 players for every position, which means we need to add 3 more. I'm also very conscious that there seems to be a rhetoric around United that they're going to build the midfield around Mainoo. As I mentioned when I was going through start, squad player or sell, for me he's a squad player. He's 20 years old, 21, whatever he is. He's not done enough for me to warrant the responsibility and the pressure and the honour of having a midfield built around him. He's not there. He's not good enough. He's not consistent enough. He's a young player who burst onto the scene, and he did, looked incredibly promising, and still is incredibly promising. But with a young player, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. That's normal. It's very, very few and far between when a young player comes in and just stays on an upward trajectory. And he hasn't stayed on an upward trajectory. He's had a few injuries. He hasn't been fancied by every manager. We don't need to be building a midfield around him. We need to be thinking, let's see what the lad's like with competition. Let's see if he can stay fit. Let's see if he's got the minerals to fight for his place and get in there ahead of whoever we might sign this summer. That's where I think we need to be with Mainoo. Not giving him 150, 200 grand a week. For me, is just not there. I don't think it helps him. And we've done this before. You give someone too much standing in the team too soon, and it falls apart. Did that with Rashford. You could argue Rashford had more right to that standing in the squad than Mainoo's got. I think one of the issues we face now, particularly with having younger players that we want to bring in players 26 or under. The profile and the pool of players, should I say, that encompasses is not that big. Particularly when you've got City, Arsenal, Liverpool getting all the best ones. We can't rely on that superficial shine of the Manchester United name anymore, unless it's a Cunha or an Mbumo who has effectively supported the club as kids. But if you insist on, let's just say, going for someone who's 23, so they'd be born in 2002. Let's say you start watching football around 7 years of age. Those types of players, that age profile, they'll have seen the last couple of years of the Ferguson era and then an awful lot of crap after that. And they see what City have done in that time. They see what Liverpool have been like. They see where Arsenal have been the last few years and where they could be going. They're big clubs as well. And obviously that's not to mention Real Madrid, Barcelona, AC Milan, lots of other big clubs around Europe, PSG. There's a lot of competition there. I'm not overly, I know I mentioned Anderson before, I'm not overly sold on all this media nonsense of, you see it on YouTube, people professing to sort of talk about Elliot Anderson as if they watch him week in, week out. Maybe they do, maybe I'm doing them a disservice, but there's other United YouTube channels where they're talking about the likes of Anderson and Wharton, and Tonali's probably a bit different because I feel like we probably have seen quite a bit of him because Newcastle have been in the Champions League, but the likes of Baleba, Wharton, Anderson, they're talking about these lads as if they watch them every week and have an intimate knowledge of them. I'll be really honest. I've got 4 kids. I've got a business. I coach a football team. I do this. I ain't got time or the inclination to watch Nottingham Forest every week to see if Anderson's the player that he's supposed to be. I've seen him for England. He looks decent. I don't know much else about him apart from that other than reputation. Baleba apparently looked really good last season, not so good this season. I'm only going off what I've heard. I don't watch Brighton every week. Adam Wharton, I don't watch Crystal Palace every week. I see these players when they play against United, and if I'm maybe just watch the odd game here or there, so I haven't got an intimate knowledge on these players to start making sweeping statements about them. I know that United and City are in for Anderson, and it seems like City are going to get him, but I'm not overly kind of fussed on the specific name we get. There's others around. Adam Scott from Bournemouth, from what I've seen of him, looks decent. João Gomez at Wolves, from what I've seen of him, looks decent. Sander Berg at Fulham looks decent. But we need numbers. We need good players, but we need numbers. We need at least 3. Let me put it differently. We need at least 2. But I'm getting drawn into the trap of it'll do. 2 will do. If we're looking at two players for every position, we need 3 midfield players. Do you know what I said before? If I don't think we need to spend £100 million on a midfield or anything close to it. I think we need a really good midfield player, or a couple of really good midfield players that are well scouted, that can obviously come in and do the job. Get the ball in the half turn, retain possession, neat and tidy. You might need one who's a little bit more dynamic than that as well. You don't need to be spending silly money. If you did want a pretty much surefire thing who fits the age profile, and you want it to go and make a statement, and you wanted almost to go and get your checkbook out to say, look, we're back. And I don't think you get huge competition for him because the eyes of City and Liverpool, etc., seem to be elsewhere. I wonder if Caicedo might be a shout from Chelsea. He's going to cost you a lot of money, but he's 24. Chelsea, if they don't get in the Champions League, are going to have to start bringing some quite serious money in, because they must be sailing very close to the wind regarding FFP. So I believe that could be a shout. I don't think United would do that. I don't necessarily think it's the right thing to do. But if we're going to be wanting to walk around with our whatsits out, I think you go for a surefire thing. And him or Tonali for me would be the closest you'd get for a surefire thing, with my knowledge of the game. And as I say, that isn't encyclopedic in the modern game. So that's my thoughts on United's recruitment. I hope it's quite balanced. It's, as I mentioned, the start, squad or sell is not a complete fantasy version. If it was, it'd look different to the one I gave you. It's semi-realistic given the board that we've got. But there's a lot that needs to be done. It's a World Cup summer. And it'd be interesting to see what we can do. Glazers out.